Fear can make cowards out of otherwise good people. I know good people, wonderful people, people of God, but somehow when they become totally saturated and subsumed under the spirit of fear, God's people subsumed under the spirit of fear, they are good people, but fear makes them cowards. Talking a good talk, singing a good song, smiling and carrying the right appearance, but you're hurting inside and you're doing nothing about it. You're angry inside and you're doing nothing about it. You're dissatisfied inside and you're suffocating inside. You're dying inside. You're not even growing as a Christian. You don't feel something, but you look good. Window dressing. Window dressing. Window dressing is the action of a man who says, I'd rather sweep the house when it's on fire rather than go out and out it. Window dressing is the action of a coward who wants to satiate and satisfy himself or herself with the idea and notion, I am doing something, when you fully well know that what you're doing brings no meaningful change. Window dressing. The real changers and change agents, whether spiritual or secular, the real change agents of biblical times and our time have always been courageous people. So much in store for you, and God is not unleashing it until you take some kind of God-generated action, something that is beyond you, a step of faith, a leap of faith, something that puts you out on a limb, something that makes you vulnerable, something that is really risky for God. God is waiting for you to step towards your change so that he could open the door and embrace you and say, come into your change. In the worst of times, God looks for difference makers. Who among my people will stand up and define the time, rather than to allow the time to shape and define them?
Is King and he is God of our lives. Yes, the world will bow down and say you are God. Every man will bow down and say you are King. So let's start right now. just wanna be with you. Oh yeah, just wanna be with you. Ooh, King of glory, fill this place. Just wanna be with you. I just wanna be with you. Yes, the world will bow down.
And say you are God.
Oh, every man will bow down.
And say you are King.
Oh, yes, the world will bow down.
And say you are God.
Every man will bow down.
And say you are King.
So let's start right now.
Right now,
Why would we wait? We can praise Him now. In victory, sing King of fill this place. I just wanna be with you.
just wanna be
Oh, He's my King of glory. Fill this place. Oh, I just wanna be with you. I just wanna be with you.
just wanna be
Oh, He's my King of glory. Come flood, fill this. Oh, I just wanna be with you. I just wanna be with you.
just wanna be
Hey, King of, fill this place. I just wanna be with you. I just wanna be with you.
just wanna be with you.
So we'll sing hallelujah. what he is to you. King of my joy, fill this place. King of power, fill this. King of glory, King of glory, King of glory, King of glory. And we'll dance in your presence till you come. Oh, we'll dance in your presence. Oh, we'll dance in your presence. Dance in your presence. Yes, the world will bow down. Every single man on this earth, every man will bow down. So let's start right now. Why would we wait? We can praise him now in victory. Oh.
1 Samuel chapter 17, please. 1 Samuel in chapter 17. It's a story that you know very well. It's a story of David. Let's pick up at verse. I'll just read a few verses. In fact, I'll read quite a bit of it. But follow along at home, please. Stay with me for the entire sermon, those of you who are following online. Speaking about the Philistine Goliath that was confronting the Israelites, verse 8, he, Goliath, stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel and said to them, why do you come out to draw up in battle array? Am I not the Philistine, and you, servants of Saul? Choose a man for yourself and let him come down to me. Verse 9, if he is able to fight with me and kill me, then we will become your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then you shall become our servants and serve us. And the Philistine, as Goliath said, I defy the ranks of Israel this day. Give me a man that we may fight together. Now Saul and all Israel heard these words of the Philistine. When they heard it, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. So verse 16, the Philistine came forward morning and evening for 40 days. 40. And he took his stand. Verse 20. Introduce a little boy now into this. His name is David. So David arose early in the morning and left the flock with a keeper and took the supplies and went as Jesse had commanded him. And he came to the circle of the camp while the army was going out, the Israelite army, in battle array, shouting a war cry. The Israelites and the Philistines drew up in battle array. Army against army. Nothing happening. Verse 26 anyway. So David saw nothing was happening. Verse 26. David spoke to the men who were standing by him, saying, what will be done for the man who kills the Philistine and takes away reproach, shame from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised? Vincent will say, so and so. Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should taunt the armies of the living God. Verse 32. So David now is beginning to talk with Saul. And he said to Saul, let no man's heart fail on account of him. Don't let your heart fail on account of what faces you. Your servant will go and fight this Philistine. Verse 40. So David took his stick in his hand and chose for himself 5 smooth stones from the brook, and put them in the shepherd's bag, which he had even in his pouch, and his sling was in his hand. And he approached the giant. He approached. I love David. He approached the giant. Last 2 verses, verse 45. Then David said to the Philistine, the giant that was facing him, listen what David said, come to me, and I will give your flesh to the birds of the sky and the beasts of the field. You come, verse 45, you come to me with a sword and a spear and a javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have taunted. This day the Lord will deliver you into my hands, and I will strike you down and remove your head. Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it. I want to strike down the enemies and decapitate them. You understand what I mean? The things that we struggle with. The things that we struggle with. I will remove your head from you, and I will give, in other words, everybody else that comes with you, I will give the dead bodies of the army of the Philistines this day to the birds of the sky and the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. My brothers and sisters, this is a message about cowards, confrontation, and change. And the title of the message is Cowards Can't Generate God-Sized Change. Only courageous people do. Cowards can't generate God-sized change. So Heavenly Father, speak to somebody needs this message, God. Use my mouth that I may only be the instrument of your voice to their heart. Father, I pray that today this message will be so powerful that undeniably someone will hear you speak to them and it will bring change. I pray this and I look for it to happen in the name of Jesus. This is a very serious message. There are 3 things to contemplate. The crisis in the nation. Crisis is always a catalyst for change. People run from crisis because they don't know how to leverage crisis. All of the change authors that I have read, great men who have written about change, one thing that I have learned, I've seen it throughout. Great thinkers, business leaders, I've read their work. Seen it throughout the Bible, in every sphere of life. As a student of history, I have followed. I have come to understand that crisis is an important catalyst for change. So I noticed in this passage a crisis atmosphere. I notice also in this passage some cowards. cowardly attitude among God's people. It bothered me. That's the second thing I noticed. And the third thing that I noticed is the courageous action of a young man. So I'm going to take these three things and speak to them, and as an instrument, hope that God will speak to your hearts. The crisis atmosphere, I will look at that first. This story did not happen at a good time. It happened at a time when God's people were in serious crisis. The Philistines had basically thrust themselves at God's people, and everything was on shutdown because of this attack. They didn't ask for it to come into their lives. Like most people don't ask for crisis to come into their lives. And when crisis comes, hear me this, it will mess up your life. Crisis messes up your life. Your life is moving along, and whether it is a coronavirus, the breakup of a relationship, health, news, a governmental appeal, loss of a job, crisis messes with your happiness. It messes with how you relate to even your family, your home, your church people. Crisis interferes with your financial freedom. Life is like this. We don't beg for the crisis. They're inevitable and unavoidable, and they come into our lives. Life has this nasty habit of throwing crises at us that sometimes mess up our relationships, mess up our work schedule, mess up finances, mess up our socializing. And that is what was happening. Follow me. This is what was happening to the Israelites. The war was upon them, and it was making a mess of everything in their life. That's what crisis does. And it was very easy, follow me, because people don't like crisis. People don't embrace crisis. People don't even know how to handle crisis, and even a far smaller amount know how to leverage crisis. So hear me well when I say that crisis is actually, for me, crisis is really a catalyst for action. If I put my hand on the stove and the stove is burning, and I put my hand there and I feel the heat, that's crisis. It's a catalyst for action. As soon as I feel the pain, I have to pull away my hand. Crisis is a catalyst. It catapults me to take action. I would be dumb if I put my hand on the stove and I feel the heat and I keep my hand there. I believe that there are some people who have put their hand on the stove and they're feeling the heat, they're keeping their hands there. I've said before, I would say again, anytime in your life that the heat is turned up, you either stay there and cook or you move and get out. So when you feel the heat, it's a catalyst for action. You need to begin to contemplate, should I stay or should I leave? You need to ask, should I speak out or should I stay silent? When you begin to feel like this ain't working out, you ask yourself, should I keep living the same way or should I start making some changes? Should I be active or passive in the face of crisis? Some people freeze like they're in headlight and they're so passive and get run over. Sometimes you have to shift, take action, be volitional, get out the way. Crisis is a catalyst. In a crisis, you have to ask, should I pull back Some do that. Some do that. That's a natural reaction. Some pull back. And some push harder. You've got to ask. It was crisis. Crisis is an important time because crisis is a catalyst and beginning of change. In this time of crisis, I am seeing change all across our globe. At first it was the coronavirus, and there was social upheaval as people started maneuvering. It became a catalyst. I've never seen our ministry of education, for example, being so in tune with the possibilities of online learning, though online learning has been around for some time. The George Floyd killing that was in Minneapolis, but the tentacles and verb and vibe of change has spread to Chicago, to Dallas, to New York, to Nevada, to Sydney, to Milan, to Tokyo, to London, as people have used this to get beyond George Floyd to something needs changing. Crisis provokes our thought of change. But sadly, in the midst of crisis, there are those who the door is open to change. The time is ripe for change. The opportunity is there for change. But for some, at such a pivotal time, there is this cowardly attitude. It is incredible to watch how the Israelites in this story reacted to this opportunity for change. Something hit them in the midst of this crisis. I read it. It is called fear. Fear totally immobilized them. They became so afraid that they were not able to even do the right thing. Something that I have observed in my life is that, hear me well, not throwing any shades. Fear can make cowards out of otherwise good people. I know good people, wonderful people, people of God, but somehow when they become totally saturated and subsumed under the spirit of fear, God's people subsumed under the spirit of fear, they are good people, but fear makes them cowards. God's people, you and good intentioned people, I know you want victory. You want to hold on to our God. He's champion. You want any assault on your life and circumstances in your life, you want it to end. You want peace of mind. You are God's child, anointed. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. You want stability in your life. You want happiness in your family and relationship. You are good people. You want good things. And God's people here wanted all of these good things, and yet they did nothing to get it. Why? Because the giant seemed invincible. He stood 9 feet tall. He was big, he was massive. You look at him and you knew he was going to dominate. He was not God's covenantal child. He didn't have the might of God behind him. He didn't have the endorsement of God. He didn't have the company of God. He didn't have the strength of God with him. You just took one look at him and thought he will beat us. Those of you who follow my radio commentary know that I've spoken about the whole satire of the elephant and the cat. It's not original with me, but one doctor I heard tell this little tale of the cat that chased the elephant, and the elephant became so afraid of the cat that the elephant kept backing up as the cat kept advancing until this big old elephant toppled over the cliff and died. You have heard me talk of Chicken Little, who thought because the coconut fell on his head, his immediate irrational assumption was that the sky is falling. And interestingly, because he came to that irrational assumption, he told other chicken, the sky is falling. They didn't check, they didn't ask, they didn't articulate, they didn't reason. They believe him, the sky is falling, let's run. There are people like that. Let's look for cover. This is a dangerous time. Let's look for cover. The fox comes out of his cave and sees them running, and he says, "Why are you running?" You know the story. And they said, "Boy, you don't know it, but the sky is falling up." Vincentian parlance, all of we dead. The fox said, "No, I can provide you shelter. Come into my cave. It is safe here." The chickens, led by Chicken Little, there are many Chicken Littles around, have a lot of passion and emotion and voice, but no reasoning. Stay right there. They followed him into the cave, a lot of them, because Chicken Little was very convincing. But they noticed something day after day. At first they didn't pick up on it, but day after day they realized something is wrong. It's like less people every day, less chicken. So this isn't, and at some point they decide this is not working out for us. And then someone spoke up and said, "But Chicken Little, don't you see? What he is saying is for our protection, is really working to his benefit." And the last story I told, because it's in the Bible, and the Bible makes a mockery of people like this. No apologies. Proverbs 26:13. That the man who ought to be productive and going about his daily life concocts or hears, or it's rare, the Bible doesn't make the distinction, that there is a lion in the street, a lion in the street, a lion in the street. And in the scathing comment that is implicit in Proverbs 26:13, the man lies in his bed. He doesn't go to work. He doesn't go about his daily activities. He does not find ways to beat the lion, to get around the lion, to confront the lion, to kill the lion, to encounter the lion, or to simply subvert and go around somehow. He just sits there and says, "There's a lion in the street. What can I do?" It's a very scathing remark. So people who have reason, don't get me wrong, people who have reason to be afraid, even in their fear, they are not applauded by the Bible. Even when you have reason to be afraid. And do you know why? Because there is something that comes with this, what the Bible calls spirit of fear, that the Bible very clearly says, if you become imbibed and subsumed with the spirit of fear, it is something that is not from God. 2 Timothy 1:7 is very clear. It's very, very clear. Fear is a spirit. Very clear. No matter how you parse it, exegete it, cut it, fear is a spirit. And furthermore, it is equally clear God did not give you that spirit. It is a spirit, but God didn't give it to you. So if you have fear, you have a spirit that was not given by God. God has not given us a spirit of fear. Why does God and His Word speak about this unholy fear? There's a fear of God, mind you, there's a fear of God. But this unholy, debilitating, inhibiting fear, the Bible says it is not from God. The Bible denounces it for good reason. Because when we become inhibited by that fear, making us cowards, this is the issue. Cowardice, provoked by fear, causes people to find substitute for meaningful action. Chew on that. Chew on that. People who are consumed with fear, they're not going to do the right thing. Even when they take action, it's not meaningful. I once said, I once said, tongue in cheek, I once said that it makes no sense sweeping the house, straightening up the furniture when the house burning down. It's a waste of time. You're making things look good, and you're in some kind of action. You're dusting down the table and the house burning, and you're busy doing it. Boy, you can't see you're doing something. You're not saving the house and making the house look good. No. The house burning down. Do the right thing. Do the right thing. Do the right thing. And I have found that I live in a time, I have found that I've commented on it, I've talked about it, I've written about it. I live in a time when people are really concerned with optics, what I call window dressing. And you do things and you say things and you have the right apparent. Listen to me, listen to me, listen to me. If it is not bringing the change, if it is not substantive enough to be effective, it is window dressing. And window dressing won't cut it. I wish that somebody can put that out sometime. Window dressing can't cut it. Okay, if you window dressing, you put a ring on, window dressing doesn't cut it. You put the ring on and say, well, I'm married, but he's treating you like, you know what I mean. Window dressing doesn't cut it. You go out in public and you're all body, and it's a sham. Window dressing doesn't cut it. All people right. See me? Come live with me. Two different things. Window dressing doesn't cut it. How long are you going to put up with window dressing that he's given you or she's given you? Window dressing in spiritual things. You come to church and people see you coming to church looking, but they don't know what you're doing afterwards. That is not change. Dress up, put on your jacket, and well, you know, I do. And others do. And you look so nice and pretty. Watch me, you're glorified window dressing. Because you have not changed since the first time you did it to the 15th time you did it. And 5 years now you're doing it. You're still in the same position, aren't you? It's all window dressing. Pastor, where you see this in this story? Where do you see it? I see it through the whole story. You heard me read it. Verse 16. 40 days. This uncircumcised, ungodly thing in your face. 40 days, and you coming out every morning trotting out in your glorified clothes, looking for war, singing war songs. Verse 20 and verse 24. You sung good. Our God, He's champion. He reigns. The way they used to do war in those days. And it was conventional at that time. You don't want to fight and kill everybody, because you're losing resources who could work your farms. So you try not to kill. So you would camp, you find 2 hills and a valley. And you camp on one hill with your guys, and the other team, the other camp on their hill. And then you made this war agreement, that the treaty of war, that you will send your guy down into the valley, and you send your guy down into the valley. You pick your best, you pick your best. We come down there, we fight. Who wins? That means, and again, one for all. Who wins? It means that if the Philistines beat this one guy, all of Israel is subjugated. If the Israelite beat this one guy, all of Philistine is subjugated. So these Israelites come out every morning. Our God, He's champion. 40 days dressing up for battle. 40 days singing war songs. 40 days near the battlefield. 40 days mouthing off, window dressing. Talking a good talk. Singing a good song. Smiling and carrying the right appearance, but you're hurting inside and you're doing nothing about it. You're angry inside and you're doing nothing about it. You're dissatisfied inside and you're suffocating inside. You're dying inside. You're not even growing as a Christian. You don't feel something, but you look good. Window dressing. Window dressing. Window dressing is the action of cowards. Window dressing is the action of a man who says, I'd rather sweep the house when it's on fire rather than go out and out it. Window dressing is the action of a coward who wants to satiate and satisfy himself or herself with the idea and notion, I am doing something, when you fully well know that what you're doing brings no meaningful change. Window dressing. Not changing anything. Or people say, mouth talk means nothing. Action speaks louder than words. It is not just the Israelites who are engaged in window dressing and glorified optics. It's people right here, right now, in-house and watching online. You know that you are dissatisfied. You know that you are not there yet. You know that, boy, this situation I am in is not the God-ordained situation, but you're living it still. You're putting up a front. And while you're putting up a front, nothing is changing. People, good people, like the Israelites, are totally dissatisfied. But they come on their hill, whether it's on Sunday or when. You come on your hill and you sing your song and you dress up in your battle gear and you go back home. You do show up. You do show up. In your marriages, you dot the I's and you cross the T's. You do show up, but you're dissatisfied. You say the perfunctory amen. You stay in it, you're like, well, I'll come and let me see how things will work out. You are not using the catalyst for change, and this is not something that God approves. This staying in the house while you think that there is a lion in the street is not something that God approves. This cowardly attitude will never cut it. Which is why the provocative title of this sermon is Cowards Cannot generate God-sized change. Only courageous people do. Our scripture reading this morning was very meaningful. Joshua chapter 1. As God is transitioning his people to a new phase into their destiny, pushing them there, the one thing that he said over and over, he said, be of good courage. Not once you read it. He says, Joshua, you're going into something new. You don't even know, boy, be of good courage, I'm with you. Comes down later, he says, Joshua, I am with you, be of good courage. And then he ends, as we came to the end of that reading, Joshua, you and your people, be of good courage in this difficult time. And I want to say to God's people, wherever you are, be of good courage. Because that's what it's going to take. In the crisis time, even when the majority of God's people are taking cowardly action and are doing the perfunctory window dressing, God expects somebody to stand up and be of good courage and take courageous action. And some things in life, at this precipice and cusp of change, some things in life are just not easy. But whoever said that this walking into your divine destiny will ever be easy? It takes courage to do the hard but necessary things. And this is where David, or how I want to be a David, this is where David differs from those around him. He didn't get into the osmosis of letting their attitude soak into him. He came on the scene determined to be a difference maker. He saw the big picture. They saw the big man. They saw the big man and Goliath standing before them. And David saw the big picture. I ask you, what do you see? Do you see what is before you, or do you see the big picture? He knew that, boy, if I give in to this, it's a life of suppression. If I fight it and overcome, it will be a life of freedom and fulfillment. He saw it. Ladies, wherever you are, you have to ask yourself, do you see the big picture of giving in every day and living a life of suppression? Or do you see the big picture of fighting the thing so that you can have fulfillment and freedom? So he decided, I'm going to act. I am going to act. And that's what we all have to do. You don't know what's going to happen when you face the giant. Change ain't easy. He has shield and spear and helmet and all the works. You got God. Glory. You got God. But it takes some kind of character to understand who you have with you compared to what he has with him. It's hard. It takes a bold, raw, kind of unusual courage. I say unusual because not everybody I interact with have this kind of courage. It is unusual to find people with this kind of courage. The real changers and change agents, whether spiritual or secular, the real change agents of biblical times and our time have always been courageous people. It was not easy for Joshua to stand against the battle-hardened Canaanites. It was not easy for Daniel to stand up to the might of Nebuchadnezzar. It was not easy for Christ to face the Roman cross. Even in the garden, he said, take it from me now. It was not easy to bring it to contemporary times. For Martin Luther King Jr., for Nelson Mandela, for Gandhi, progenitors of modern day change, it took courage. Change is never wrought by cowardly people. David just could not sit there. He had to step out in faith. He could not, like the others, he could not, like the others, consider all of the what ifs. What if this? What if I slip? What if the first stone miss? What if he rush me? You don't. You have to act. You have to understand that the moment is now. And you cannot begin to be intimidated or inhibited by the what ifs. Because something propels you despite the danger. Something pulls you despite the risk. And it is this knowledge, this awareness that when you act, it can open the door to your destiny. When you act, when you take the change, when you pull away, when you move out, when you push harder, when you confront, when you stand up, when you make change happen, when you take action, it can change your future. Inaction cannot change our future. And so David decided he was going to take a bold step of faith. And in taking that step, it catapulted him into his destiny. I will remind you, the destiny was always upon his life, ever since he was a young lad, chosen for a great future. Chosen. It was upon him, but he was not experiencing it. The people God has ordained, I'm bringing it home, God has ordained stuff for us that we are not yet experiencing. He's not living it. In fact, right now he's under oppression, and he will never live the future that is ordained for him unless he takes action. Men living in repressive situations, women living in strangleholds and repressive situations. People sitting here, young people, teenagers and others, good future ahead, great things ahead of you, catapulting your career to where you have never seen it go. It is ordained for you. Take action. Ordination and destiny upon his life, and it's not there yet. It is as if God was waiting for this young boy to take meaningful action before God unleashed his future. Think about that. So much in store for him, and God is not unleashing it until he takes action. So much in store for you, and God is not unleashing it until you take some kind of God-generated action, something that is beyond you, a step of faith, a leap of faith, something that puts you out on a limb, something that makes you vulnerable, something that is really risky for God. God is waiting for you to step towards your change so that he could open the door and embrace you and say, come into your change. What if God is waiting for you to act in faith like David, rather than act in cowardice like the others around him? What if God has something really good in store for you, and all that it takes to get it is a faith move that will totally disrupt where you are, but catapult you into the future that you have been denying yourself. Cowards remain. Cowards are consumed by the threat that faces them. Cowards are bogged down by the what ifs. Cowards calculate all of the risks and never step out with God-sized faith. Cowards will go on 1 day, 2 days, 5 days, 5 years, 10 years, 30 years, 40 years. Cowards will remain where they are until they exercise God-sized faith. It takes courage, my friends. It takes courage. The monumental acts that God wants us to make, they take courage. Even the act of getting saved, which is a total shift in your life when you consider all you have to give up, all that is going to change. It is a monumental shift. It's like a Goliath kind of move. And God is saying to you, do this, take action. And some are coward and will not do it even today. You don't feel like I'm mocking you, but you won't do it. And you have good reasons, like the Israelites, for standing on the hill and singing and applauding and saying, nice word, nice sermon today. Did you get saved? No, afraid to go down in the valley. Baptism, you know how many people, and I've talked about people coming and saying, Pastor, I want to be saved. I say, well, let's take the next step. Baptism, Pastor, no, I can't do that. And the well-orchestrated and chiseled excuse, well-orchestrated and chiseled, is this: Pastor, I have things to work on. I ain't ready yet. Give me some more time. Let me think about it. And you have well-sounding excuse because, Pastor, this is a big step, you know. This is a big step. I have to be really ready. Fighting Goliath was a big step. Go fight it now. Steps in relationship, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you're in the same. What changing? You're waiting for 40 years? Because, yeah, that's biblical. When your old granny coming down, see me in my 90s trying to marry you. Ring drop loss. Whether it's worshiping, coming to worship God like he said, or giving like God. You think giving easy? You think it's easy to give? You think it was if giving was easy, would Christ have taken this cup of suffering from me? Christ modeled the hardship of giving when he says it's like suffering sometimes, but God, you know what? Nevertheless, it is what you want I am going to do. I wish we would take this attitude towards giving and serving and participating and encouraging. And all of these things, they are hard to do. They are giant steps. And we could be coward and sing our songs on the hill, or we could go down in the valley and say, bring it on, because you come to me with shield and sword and spear, but I come to you in the name of our living God. May God bless you today. I believe that we are children of the living God, and I believe that we are equipped and ready to face every giant. Situationally, socially, and spiritually, we are ready to face our giant. May you decide today if you are a coward or if you will be courageous and go out and confront the change and make it happen in the name of God. Please bow your heads.